Welcome to Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. Today, I am so excited to bring someone different that I am sure you guys have never heard about. Why do I know that? Because I am her first podcast. So, Jackie Vazquez is my guest today. She happens to be a childhood friend of mine as well. We used to go to this church in Brooklyn, New York called All Saints. We went through a journey of faith together. We did something called a Jornada 77 together. And I'm so excited and proud to bring her today so that she can share her story with you as well. Let me share with you her bio. Jackie is a wife, a mother, a worship leader, a retreat and group facilitator, a singer-songwriter, a writer, and even a gym rat, but mostly a woman that wants to serve God with all that she has. She has been married for over 30 years, raising two amazing children, and believes in constantly reinventing herself. She truly came to Jesus at the age of 28 in the midst of a divorce with a small child and experienced a love that changed everything about her. With her husband by her side, she began her journey as a youth pastor and a worship leader. Most recently together, they established a nonprofit, 628 Ministries, after 10 years in marriage ministry. The hope is to expand our ministry facilitating group and retreats to teach others what we do. Ultimately, our vision is to save a marriage and in turn save a family for generations to come. Our mission is to spread hope one person at a time. Let's welcome Jackie. Hello, Jackie.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank
I'm so
you for
excited.
having me.
I'm so excited. Your first podcast, right?
My first podcast. Yes.
Yeah. So we started our journey very many years ago as we met as teenagers, right? So we were in a faith journey even back then as teenagers, right? And as I'm reading that and as I'm talking about that, I do want to start with asking that we're going to talk about the challenge that you've had in your life, but let's talk about when we were teenagers and how different was that journey of faith as a teenager to what you experienced later on. Do you feel that it prepared you in some way, or did you feel that it was a connection but not a true connection to God?
I honestly don't feel that I would have gotten to the place that I am right now in my faith had it not been for that initial journey when I was young. Jesus was at that time, Jesus came into my life in a way that I absolutely needed it, and surrounded me with people such as yourself that kept me protected from the environment that we were being raised in. Kept me out of a lot of trouble back then. We had an amazing group of teenagers. I still look back on that and think, wow, God is so gracious and so amazing. But I did, as I got older, I did lose my way and I didn't keep it.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was, which often happens with a lot of people, it wasn't until I was in a really bad place that I found myself, I didn't even know I needed Jesus, to be perfectly honest. I didn't know that was the answer. I just knew that I tried everything else. And
Right.
I found myself miraculously in a very small Pentecostal church at the age of 28 that, having been raised Catholic, I didn't like that church because it's a little, over the top.
Different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Different.
But I found myself at an altar, and at that point in my life, Jesus just kind of, I made a way for Jesus to just kind of plant himself in my heart. And it was just something completely different, so much more personal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember, if you
remember
when we left the Jornada, right? I remember after coming off of that retreat, right? That's a retreat for those that don't understand what the Jornada is. Jornada is a Spanish word for journey, right?
Yeah.
So it is a weekend journey that teenagers go on and they develop a relationship with each other and they try to develop a closer relationship with God, right? And I remember leaving that place after being there for the 3 days that we were there and thinking that the world looked different, that the colors were more vibrant than I had remembered them before I went in, right? So that something had changed within us. And they talk about that when you leave, how to be able to maintain that, right? Now you're going out into the world. Now you have to try to keep this faith and keep it going. But as teenagers are, and as we start to grow and experience different adulthood, we do lose our way. I lost my way too. I remember not feeling connected, that connection, you know, and I
Yeah.
all the time. I was a cradle Catholic, as I'm sure you are, right? Cradle Catholic. We didn't know anything else but that. And not feeling when challenges start to come up, is this what I really want? Is this, is this the real thing? Especially myself being a nurse, experiencing back in the 80s when I became a nurse, AIDS, and which is ironic with COVID, right? That it was a virus that took over the world.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even wrap your brain around how God could allow this kind of suffering. And here we are, how many years later, the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just questioning it different. So share with us the pivotal moment in your life when you knew that things were changing and that you needed something different, even though you didn't know that it was God, but that you knew that you needed something different. Share that with us.
I got married pretty young. I think you did too, right? I got married at the age of
25.
20. Yeah, I was 22 when I got married.
So young. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very, very young. And so it took me a while to have my son. So it took 4 years. So at 26, I had Daniel. But by that point, Mickey and I were just not in a good place. Mickey is my husband. And we had been struggling a lot in marriage, as is often the case when you get married very young.
Right.
But I just really went off took a like really drastic left turn. Because I'm a deep end of the pool kind of girl. Like when it came to Jesus, I was the same way. Like I don't flinch.
Right.
So for the good, I jump into the deep end, but I also jump into the deep end for the bad. So I was
It's all
drinking
in.
a lot. Yeah, it's all in. I was drinking and I was very cold. Hadn't cried for like many years. I was not. I tell people this, like I was not a nice person. Um, like I look back at it now and think you I'm not sure many people would have liked me back then. And so Mickey and I had decided that we were gonna get divorced. At that time, Daniel was very little. Um, and I was invited to a church. And at that point, I remember I was drinking, I had gone out, I came home, and I made it to the doorstep of our apartment and I threw up all over the door. And my son was in a crib. And I had that moment where I looked up and thought, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that he's not old enough to see me.
Wow.
And I got invited to a church that honestly, I only went because Mickey's cousin was literally harassing us. And I was like, okay, fine. If we go, maybe he'll stop. And I ended up going there for about a year with my son without Mick.
Okay.
And somewhere along the line, I remember a pastor was preaching about hands, which for me is a big deal because I play an instrument. So
Right.
it was like I felt like it was very personal. And he did an altar call where they invite you to the front to pray with you. And I remember thinking, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not going up there. And the next thing I know, I was standing in the front. I was actually the first one up there. And I don't know how,
Wow.
I don't remember the walk. But I remember not really fully comprehending that moment was going to change my life. But from that moment on, again, deep ends of the pool, I became very, like I dove headfirst into the Word of God for the first time in my life. I really wanted to understand what I was believing in. I wanted to be able to defend it. And then I have spent the rest of my life being super grateful and just wanting to kind of give back to for that one moment. And
So
that's
that
why I do everything I do.
so that year that you spent at this Pentecostal church, Did you see yourself changing throughout that year before you decided to take the walk? Because you don't remember the walk.
I don't remember when I took it. It's funny because some Christians do. I had this discussion recently. Some people actually write the date down. Like they come home and they're like, this is the day. And they write it down so that they never forget it. I didn't know, so I don't remember. Like, I don't remember if I was there a month or if I was there 6 months. It's 20, we're going back like 20 years now. You lucky I remember what I had for lunch yesterday. Like,
amen.
Yeah.
Oh, this morning for that.
we in the 50s now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't remember how long, but I changed drastically that year.
From that moment on, you saw, you felt, you knew that something within you had changed.
Yeah.
Now
there was like almost like a switch that clicked on. Yeah. And not everybody was happy about it, but.
Well, this is my next question. You led me right into it. Your segue right into that. I've had other people who've shared similar experiences as well, and their marriages don't survive because they change so much that the partner is like, I don't even know who you are anymore, right? And even though you guys were at a point and you started going, he didn't go to church with you, right? So when he started to see the transformation in you, how was that received?
All right, so let me say that I am married to a pretty amazing man. Like, even when we were at our worst, he was still an amazing man. It wasn't like he was this terrible husband. I always say, but on the contrary, it was more likely me that was like wrecking everything. But yeah, we had the conversation of, because he was also in the Jornada movement. Like he also has like a foundation of faith. So at the time I said, it doesn't have to be this church, but we have to go to church. So if you want to go someplace else, then we'll go someplace else. Like if you want to go to the Catholic Church, if you want to go, whatever, but we're going somewhere. On Sunday mornings, we're waking up and we're going somewhere, because I need a foundation. I need something that sets me straight every week. And he didn't want to go anywhere. And I said, okay, well then this is where I'm going. And at some point, if you want to come, that's great. And it took about a year of inviting, like saying, okay, you want to come? And he would say, nope. And I'll go, okay. And then the following Sunday, you want to come? And at some point he said, okay. And he joined me, and we've been on this journey ever since.
Has he found himself to be transformed as well?
Yeah. And we've both been,
And I think everybody needs to find that. I remember myself, struggling with the body, Catholicism, and trying to figure out, well, maybe it's because I need to go to another type of church, right? Christian, non-denominational, whatever it is. So I tried different things, right? One thing that I always say, and in retrospect, I understand it now at a deeper level, is why I kept coming back to Catholicism, is because I felt like the Blessed Mother wasn't honored as much in other faiths as in Catholicism, right? And I truly looked up to her, not knowing that I was going to walk the walk that she had walked, right? So I remember being in the hospital with my daughter as she was critically ill, and thinking back to the Blessed Mother who had walked with her son,
Amen.
right? And had to witness that. And I was like, now I know
why,
right?
Well, so, if everybody was meant to be at the same church, there would only be one church. Like,
amen. Exactly.
Jesus meets people. Yeah, Jesus meets people in different places.
God is one. God is one. These are just different avenues to get to, and everybody's got to find their own way. But we're all going to meet there. We're all going to go home one day, right? And we're not going to be segregated and separated by our religions either. We are all one person. We are all connected. God lives within inside of us. Right? And not to make this a whole religious thing, but it's because that's not what this is. It's because we have to find our way as well. And everybody's got to find their own way. Everybody's got to find their own way, whether it's because of this or because of something else. But we talk about this because this is important to what you do and what you're bringing forth into the world, and how you're going to change the world. So share, How are you changing the world? Talk to me about your nonprofit and what you're doing there today.
Okay, so about 10 years ago, well, even prior to that, uh, I, before Mickey, I felt the call to marriage ministry. And I was a bit discouraged early on because in my relationship with my husband, I'm the vocal one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Mickey's more,
Laid back.
yeah, and he's more background. Granted, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do if not for what he provides.
Right.
But in a lot of uh, marriage ministry, the dynamic is usually that the husband is more of the speaker, and in this
Right.
case, we're not. But I kept feeling the pull, and after having a discussion with Mickey, we opened our home to 10 couples, 10 of our friends. We said, hey, do you want to come to our house and we'll do a Bible
Wow.
study and we'll talk? And we did that, and it was phenomenal. um, I'm not at Recovery House of Worship, but I was at Recovery House of Worship for 20 years. So it's a church that ministers to people in recovery, in NA and AA, and their family and friends.
Okay.
So the dynamic of our conversations is very raw.
Right. Needs
It's
to
like a
be.
no, yeah, it's no holds bar. Like we say anything and we discuss anything. So it was a truly beautiful time together. And we've been doing that for 10 years. But in either case, a few years into that, we decided, because I've been doing retreats since the beginning of my walk with Jesus. And I've helped facilitate, retreats this whole time, but I hadn't done a marriage retreat.
Mhm.
Not that I did it. I had been on one, but I hadn't done one myself. So Mickey and I decided that we would take our couples for a weekend because we thought, wouldn't it be cool if we did a marriage retreat? That would be great. So our first marriage retreat, which was about 7 years ago now, we had, I think, 18 couples that joined us for that weekend. And it was
Wow.
amazing. Um, and then we started doing them, we decided, okay, we'll do one next year and we'll do one the year after that. And so this year, I went from doing one retreat for all these years. This year I'm doing 5.
Wow.
Um, so, but my marriage retreat, the one that I do, is in the end of October, and we went from 18. This year I have 50.
Couples.
So couples, yeah,
Yeah, 50
because
couples.
yeah, and every year we're getting people that I've never met at this point. Like there's a good handful of couples that they just hear about it and they call me and they say, "Hey, I got your number from so and so. I'm interested in the retreat." And so so I literally, like, there's couples that are family and there's couples that when they get to the retreat and they check in, I'm meeting them for the first time. So
Wow.
it's pretty phenomenal.
Since you've been on marriage retreats and facilitating them for some time now, do you
Hmm.
find that there is, for some reason, now a shift where more couples are looking for this type of thing
Hmm.
now than in the past? And why do you think that that's true now?
Well, I don't know if since I do think that there isn't enough churches and enough organizations don't offer
Okay.
this kind of ministry. And so I think that that's big. Like because at my retreat, it's no longer my church. There's like 5 churches represented where they're coming from other locations to come to which is amazing. Like it's absolutely amazing.
And where are you
Um,
located? Because we didn't even talk about that. You're in New
I live in
York.
Staten Island. I live in
Yeah.
Staten Island. Yeah.
We didn't even talk about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you're still in Staten Island. So in the Staten Island area, you have all these churches that,
No, actually,
relation.
a good chunk of the retreat is from Pennsylvania.
Really?
Uh-huh. Because we had a few couples join us from a couple of churches in Pennsylvania. One of them is a very large church, actually, Life Church in PA. And one couple came, then 2, then 10, then 15. So it's a huge group from Pennsylvania that comes.
So
So
you're obviously
it's been
open to whoever, right? So
Oh
even
yeah,
if
yeah,
people
yeah.
are from whatever state, you don't have to come from any particular
We have couples that
background,
come from
religion.
Florida. We have a few couples that come from Florida for the
Wow.
retreat. Yeah. And we have like even the marriage groups, which are small, because the groups are more personal. We have couples that moved, and so they Zoom in from Florida.
So you
And
also
though I mean,
offer a Zoom option as well.
yeah, like I do. I mean, I honestly, I'm an in-person kind of girl.
Yeah. It's
Like
a
I
different
want to
field.
do, yeah, I want to do everything in person. But COVID did open a like this Zoom thing that made it so much more accessible for
The
us to be able
virtual
to do.
world. Yeah, the
Yeah, it's a
virtual
virtual.
world,
I don't do the retreats on Zoom at all. Like we don't post them, but it's just
the
too.
groups.
It's too difficult. But yeah, I'm grateful to be able to meet with people over Zoom. It definitely opens something up that didn't exist before.
Right.
So it's very cool. And then, this year, because the retreats were getting so large, and there's a financial dynamic, there's a accountability dynamic,
Mm.
that I hadn't expected. Because, initially, I always say God's vision was bigger than mine. Because when I
Yes.
started the retreats, I thought this was just like a little, not little, but like a personal thing for my people, for the people that God placed in my life that I get to do life with. Um, I never expected what's happening now. Like I didn't see that far.
Yeah.
But God
We as
did.
we as humans, we only think like this, what's right in front of us, what's right next to us, right? We don't see
The
how many
big
other people,
picture.
the big picture. Something that you mentioned in your bio, which I think is beautiful, is about you start with the marriage because in turn that saves a
The
family.
family.
Speak to me on that.
Um, well, obviously my own personal story, because Daniel was so little when I came to Jesus. I have to, I truly believe that if not for Jesus, I don't know what kind of life my son would have had.
Mm,
Um, because I was what I would term myself as, and this is just me talking about me. I don't believe myself to have been a good mom back then, um, because of the place that I was in, you
right,
know, and I was spiraling at that
right.
time. So I do believe that when Jesus came into my life, um, he saved my family, mine.
Yours. Yeah.
And, I also was able to raise my kids in a Christian household, um, seeing what God can do with Mickey and I, you know?
Right.
And so when I look at the families, like if we talk about the book is stories that you'll read about how marriages are restored,
Yep.
in the presence of what what God can do if you just give it to Jesus. And some of these are insane. Like they are just ridiculous stories.
Yeah, so that was
Um,
leading me into my next question to you, but I also want to just mention that you're saving generations, right? Because had it not been for this, there may not have been a grace, right? There
right.
may not have been now grandchildren that came from grace. So the
Hmm.
generations moving forward, as well as these other individuals, right? With if your family stays intact, then you are saving generations as
Saving
well.
generations and breaking curses that have lived in your
Generational
family for,
curses.
yeah, for, you know,
That's
a
huge.
lot of people come from broken homes. A lot
Yeah.
of people come from homes that are riddled with addiction, and abuse,
Yes.
and just really heartbreaking stories.
Yeah.
Um, and then God restores that and turns it, and then they get to tell their stories and use it for God's glory, which is phenomenal. They take
Absolutely.
something, yeah, God takes what the enemy meant for evil and turns it for good.
That's right.
So
That's
it's
right.
amazing. It's amazing.
And you and I share something in common is that we both just became authors. So,
Yeah.
right. Isn't that crazy? We both did
Yeah,
something similar. We're
both.
both working in the same, I'm taking it in a different avenue. I'm trying to save lives, but having people join the registry, especially Latinos, African Americans, mixed ethnicity individuals. And I'm trying to grasp all of them to understand that we have the power to save lives within ourselves. We have the power. Nobody can take that away from us. We just have to say yes. With you, it's a different mission, but we both decided to write books. So tell me about your book. What's the name of the book?
Can I show it?
Please show it.
Yeah. So that's am I holding it right? Yeah. There's the
Yep.
book.
I
It's
choose
I
you.
choose you. Yeah, I actually I've had writing a book on my bucket list for a few years. Like it's not, and I still want to write. There's another book that
It's
I'm
inside of
in.
you.
Yeah, it's there. I think at least two more, but this one was unexpected because what ended up happening is about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer at this point. I usually prior to my retreats, I have the couples do something, you know, like I'll email them and say, hey, can you do this or whatever. So a couple of years ago, I asked them to share some of their story with me. And at that time, it was 36 couples that I said, listen, can you just email me a little bit of your story? And some of them wrote 2 sentences, some of them wrote 5 pages. It was not, I didn't give them instructions. I didn't tell them, I didn't ask them a question. I said, share whatever you want to share. Just, you know, write something down. And so they sent them to me and I thought, wow, this is beautiful. So I put it together like in a binder and it sat here in my house. And I gave it to the couples as like a gift, the book. And I thought about a few months later, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I published these as a devotional? And I just add some of my own words at the end, like so that people are reading them and then seeing how their story ministers to their own journey, and then they get to like answer a question in regard to. So it's got the story of the couple, a devotional, and then a question, like a space where they can write.
You can journal. You can journal
Yeah, where you
yourself.
could
Yes.
journal. And I thought, yeah, again, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could get this published? And then I did the nonprofit at that time a few months ago. And I decided, let's give this a shot and let's see if I can publish it. And I did. And the feedback has been, you know, it's interesting because I shared this with people at my job. And I'm working at I've been at the same job for over 30 years, but they moved me a few months ago. So I'm surrounded by like different people. They moved my office. They moved my office.
Yeah.
And the feedback has been so moving. Like, you know, like people are coming to me and saying, I can't believe that these couples let you publish this.
Yes.
Like,
yes,
I can't
because
believe
they're
that they
raw.
let you, because they're raw. Like, I can't believe that they put this to paper and then allowed you to share it. Because, you know, there's stories of abuse and there's stories of infidelity and there's AIDS and there's, you know, there's so much in the book, but there's also redemption and forgiveness and just amazing, beautiful journeys.
And how you know you can make it. I purchased it on Kindle because I couldn't wait. I didn't want to wait for a physical copy. So I wanted to start reading it right away. And yeah, I was taken by that same thing. Like these people really went all out, were raw to share the story, because what they're sharing is not so much what happened, but how they were still able to maintain, how they still were able to come together and stay married, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes it was
when they should be divorced. A lot of them are second.
Divorced.
A lot of them are second and some
Yeah.
third. Yeah, because you know, when you have a background of addiction, which some of the couples really do, they it took them a while to get their lives straightened out, you know,
Right.
to get to a point where they're good and they can now and they can now have a good marriage and be good parents, and took them a while to get there.
And listen, I always say this is a journey. We don't wake up one day and say we're healed and we're cured and I'm not addicted anymore and I'm not this. This is a daily battle, right?
Daily battle, yeah.
It is.
And I say these couples, some of these couples by worldly standards, including probably Mickey and myself, there's no they should be divorced. Right. Like they should be divorced. There's no logical reason when you read their stories and think, why did, like, outside of Jesus, there's no way that they would have sustained this. And yeah, they're not only married, like they not only sustained it, they're thriving. They have beautiful marriages. Not perfect. There's no such thing as perfect.
Right.
And there's no
Perfection's
such
an
thing as
illusion.
battle free, but solid. And I get to be a small part of that. It's amazing. I get to do life with some pretty cool people.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
amazing. So tell anyone who is watching who wants an autographed copy, physical copy of that book, how can they get it?
Well, if you want, you can buy it on Amazon and
Mhm.
Barnes and Noble. If you're local to Staten Island and you feel like meeting me, you can hit me up. But if you want an autographed copy, you can email me. The email is on, I think
It's scrolling on the bottom. So
it's
628
628,
Ministries.
which is 628 is
28.
actually my anniversary. It's my anniversary. It's June
Ah,
28th.
okay. June 28th.
Yeah.
Okay.
628 ministries at gmail.com. And you can find me on Facebook under my name, Jackie Vazquez. Yeah, and I would love to hear from anyone.
And
Yeah,
leave
if
some
there's
comments. If you're buying it on Amazon and you love the book, I'm going to do that, right?
yeah,
Because
please leave a review. Yeah,
I'm
that's
a
amazing.
verified purchaser. I will leave a review because yes, it was impactful. I'm reading this and I'm going, wow, like wow, you know, especially when, you know, fortunately for me, I didn't come from a background of addiction, but a lot of my, friends, family are, and it leads me to be able to understand them in a different way, right?
Hmm.
And to be able to help them because that perspective is needed. If you don't go through something yourself, it's hard to have that perspective. But when people are raw, because some people don't want, I'm not going to share that, right? When people are
Yeah.
raw like that, it gives you a little bit more insight and ability to be more empathetic to someone who's going
Yeah.
through that, you know?
These couples are they're just great. If the ministry, if my groups or the retreats or the book is successful, it's definitely not um entirely about my husband and I. Absolutely not. Like the reason the retreats are amazing is because the people that attend it are just incredible people.
Right.
And it's just they run from I'm in their early 20s to late 60s, all nationalities, and it's just it's just yeah.
It's a
I'm
beautiful,
almost getting emotional because it's been such an incredible journey, and it's blessed me far more than it's blessed them.
and you're just starting, girlfriend. You are just starting.
Yeah, I just did a women's retreat last weekend. I mean, I've been doing retreats for many years, but this women's retreat is the first women's retreat under the nonprofit.
Yes.
So, yeah, and we were able to take the nonprofit paid for three of the women to be able to attend, which is one of the goals of the nonprofit is to raise enough funds so that money is not
So that's my next
an
question
issue.
to you in regards to the nonprofit, because I know you're just starting this journey with the nonprofit
Just
and figuring
started,
things
yeah.
out just like me, right? Izzy's
Hmm.
legacy is new to me and I'm learning all the things that go with that. But how can people support your ministry? Are there ways? Do the books go towards the ministry? Is
Yes, everything
How
is
else can
going
they
towards the
support?
ministry at this point.
So if
I
they buy
do
your
not
book, they're
have.
supporting.
Yeah, I don't have I have a domain, but I don't have a web page yet. We're working on it. I actually do need to find someone that can put that together for me. But if you want to learn more about the ministry, uh you can email me and I will provide whatever information. I'm just trying to get the word out. I just want
Absolutely.
to, yeah, I want the opportunity to share in churches and in organizations and like this on a podcast and just share about what we're doing, um, and see if there's a way that we can bless other people while we're
Right.
doing it. I would love to establish marriage groups in different locations, and help other couples learn to open their homes and how to do it, which isn't difficult at all, actually. You could do it with your friends and your family.
Yes.
I'd love to spread the word about our retreats. Like I said, I have a woman. This retreat that I just did was mine. That was the women's retreat. I'm helping to facilitate another women's retreat at another church at the end of April. I'm traveling to Ohio for my first marriage retreat out of state. Um, and then I have my marriage retreat in October, and I'm facilitating another marriage retreat in November. So this is where we're trying to really just grow the ministry. And financially speaking, We would like to get to a point where if you want to attend something we do and you don't have the finances to do it, that's not an issue. Like, that's not something that stops you, because it does cost money. The
Putting
retreats
things together does.
Yeah, well, right now we charge as low as we can charge because the camps charge us to be able to use the camp for the weekend. So, and luckily Mickey and I are pretty good. You know, we have good jobs, so it's not something that like we're struggling in that area. Um, and I have pastors that speak for free. I have ministers that minister for free. So we've been very blessed that up until this point, we have been able to fund it. But we want to be able to bless more people and open more doors so that we're able to do this on a bigger scale. And that takes finances. So like I said, for the women's retreat, we were able to bless 3 women through the nonprofit so that they were able to attend. One of my closest friends, Catherine Petrillo, she's a pastor in Rockaway. She ministered for free. She didn't charge me. And so, yeah, I have people that are willing to help.
Yeah, this is just a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
And for my viewers out there, I will absolutely keep you updated. Jackie will be keeping me updated so that we can give updates as to what's going on with the ministry. We will continue to let you know. Feel free to go ahead and email her, reach out to her on Facebook, buy the book.
Buy the book.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and through her. Now, Jackie, my last question, which I ask all of my guests, is how do you define success?
On a mom level, my success is very linked to my children. And just, again, I almost destroyed their life. So I'm super grateful that, that didn't happen. But on a bigger scale, I guess similar to you. So when you define success, I'm sure a lot of people think of legacy, like what you're leaving behind, what outlives you. Right. And I'm not talking about, and I compare myself to the ministry that you're starting or you've begun with for your daughter. It's not necessarily that they remember your name. Right. The point is that you save lives of people that have never met you and that will never know the name Jackie or the name Marilyn, but that your impact is felt far, like when we're long and gone, that lives on. So Amen. Like my hope is that what we're doing now, the small part that God has allowed Mickey and I to play in the lives of so many families, which is so humbling and so amazing, that because of what we're doing now, generations and generations and generations will feel the impact of it long after I have finished my journey on
That's
this
right.
earth.
It's the ripple effect. I absolutely love that answer. It's the ripple effect that I talk about all the time, that at the end of my life, I don't want to say that I made $1 million, but I'd love to say that I saved 1 million lives.
Oh, amen to that one. Yes. Like that's right. It. That's everything.
That's it. Mic drop.
Yeah, so, that's all of it.
Jackie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
To hearing the beautiful things that are going to happen in the future. I can't wait to hear that. And for my viewers, I will see you next time.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Morales, and I am a recruitment coordinator for Be The Match. My journey with Be The Match actually began when I was only 9 years old. At that point, my 7-month-old baby sister was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of leukemia. Through the Be The Match registry, we were able to find a matching donor for my sister. And although a few months later, we lost her, her cancer was cured. Our family is so thankful for the additional months that we had with my sister. And ever since then, I've made a promise to myself to dedicate my life to helping children just like Isabella and helping families like ours by continuing her legacy. Hence why I now work for Be The Match. I love what I do so much, and I'm able to spread awareness about the huge need for more donors on the registry, especially those of diverse backgrounds. There is currently a huge disparity within the registry for minority patients, and we need your help. It is so simple to save a life and to be put on the registry. You can visit izzy'slegacy.com or text Izzy's Legacy to the number 61474 to start the registration process to be on the Be the Match registry, to hopefully be a life-saving match for a searching patient in need.